Good to see you all. Our first session in April together. And just a reminder, this series extends through May. So we'll have 3 more sessions after this one. I hope you all are feeling somewhat grounded, rested, relaxed. And if not, I'm glad you're here anyway. We'll hopefully lean into some of that and cultivate those feelings in our practice today. For anyone who's new, welcome. We welcome all experience levels here. And I'll just talk a little bit about the format, and then we'll get into the topic and practice for the day. So I'll lead at some point after I talk for a bit about a 15, maybe to 20-minute meditation practice. Most of the practices that we do here are rooted in mindfulness and compassion. The two really work well together to produce a balanced but really engaged and I think dynamic way of being in our lives and the world. I'll speak about a topic, we'll do the practice, and then we'll have a few minutes at the end if anyone would like to reflect, share out to the group, or if you have questions or concerns or challenges. And I really want to emphasize it's okay if you do have any of those, particularly if something felt challenging, like the languaging used or an aspect of the practice. Just because meditation is good for us overall doesn't mean that you have to like or feel aligned with every part of every practice. So part of the beauty of this space is you get to ask me like, hey, Alexa, this didn't work for me. Is there another way I could approach this? And I'm happy to share about another path. So yeah, please feel free to share about that afterward. And I'll try to save like maybe more than 2 or 3 minutes at the end now that I've kind of opened that space up. Okay. Let's talk about equanimity. Equanimity, I define and explain as a sort of being even-keeled, being able to respond to situations meaning as immediate as a sensation in our body or thought in our mind, or as external as another person or a life situation, instead of just kind of reacting. So responding as opposed to reacting, this is something equanimity can give us. Equanimity is about feeling like spacious and balanced with whatever's going on in our minds and lives as much as possible. It's not to shame or blame getting sort of off center or imbalanced, but cultivating more spaciousness and equanimity and noticing the ways that we automatically react that might be causing us extra pain or suffering that we don't need to put on ourselves. This is what equanimity is about and how it can kind of support us and balance us. If you are someone who feels like they're highly sensitive, if you identify as an HSP, highly sensitive person, or even if you just feel like you have too much empathy sometimes, some call it like bleeding heart syndrome, like there's just so much empathy or feeling with yourself or others, equanimity is a beautiful antidote to just kind of balance that out. So I name that for folks who may, have challenges with feeling empathy or are even in a job where a lot of empathy is required and it can lead to burnout. Equanimity is a really lovely way to kind of balance this out. We're going to do a practice that focuses on equanimity in a somatic sense. So we'll be going through 3 ways that we automatically, by default, often react to things in our lives by looking at how we're responding in our bodies. But we'll first go through sensing into like unpleasant sensations and noticing if our automatic reaction is to just like try to push it away or suppress it or wish it would end or get annoyed with it. This is often the reaction that we have with people or things in our lives that we don't like, that are unpleasant. It's like, get rid of it, push it away. I don't want it. But this can cause suffering because we typically have to deal with stuff in our lives. So without the capacity to kind of just be with it and in being with it, shifting it and changing it, we can cause a little more suffering than we might need in our lives. The second thing we're going to approach is pleasantness, actually. What feels pleasant in our bodies at this moment? And I'll guide us through that to give examples, but also noticing the reaction, like, is being with this pleasantness making me kind of cling to it, to desire more, to not want it to end? When we have this automatic reaction in our lives with, I don't know, eating a piece of chocolate cake or like being infatuated with someone and not wanting the moment to end, this can create suffering because actually it can cloud our ability to like openly and spaciously enjoy the thing that we're experiencing. So we'll be looking at that. And then the final sort of step in this practice is looking at the neutral. So sensing what feels kind of neutral, what am I not even noticing, or what am I glossing over in my somatic experience that I could pay attention to. And this might be my favorite part of this practice, actually, because when we pay attention to the neutral, everything happening in our bodies, minds, lives between those poles of like unpleasant, get it away, and pleasant, I want more, we just open up our experience of life that much more. There's so much potential good that we might be missing and potential sense of connection that we might be missing when we just kind of tune things out. And oftentimes it's stress that tunes that out automatically. It's like our filters become that much more intense, but we can talk about that at the end. Okay. Speaking of talking, I'll pause for a moment and I'll ring the bell so we can start the practice. This will be about 15 minutes. So get comfortable, find a posture that feels good, where you can feel awake and aware, but also relaxed and grounded. So just allowing the silence that follows the bell to welcome you into a space of rest. Allowing your body to feel as comfortable as possible. Just showing your body and your mind, reassuring them this is a space they get to rest. They get to decompress. They get to engage with the present moment in a way that will be supportive, or just turning the volume down on any stress or busyness in the mind. Noticing for a moment where the earth rises up to offer grounding and support to your physical body, to your whole being. Making any small adjustments you need to be even 5% more comfortable. Allowing the eyelids to rest closed if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, resting a soft gaze somewhere in front of you. Allowing the chin to dip ever so gently toward the chest. Just so your head is in a position where if a droplet of water kind of trickled down your nose, It would have no problem just kind of dropping down onto your chest. You might become aware of your breath, your breathing for the first time today. And from here, we'll go right into this three-part practice of equanimity. I'll invite you to notice any sensations or feeling tones that are unpleasant in your body, in your being. Could be a slight discomfort in your posture or like a stiffness or pain. It could be more subtle, perhaps a discomfort and unpleasantness in transitioning to the practice, maybe that busyness in the mind. Go ahead and just notice, where do I feel it? What does it feel like? It could be a sense of coolness where you wish there were warmth, or warmth where you wish there were coolness. And as you begin to notice that feeling tone of unpleasantness, you might get curious what your response is to it, your reaction. Again, without shaming or blaming, we're just getting curious and noticing. Is there any felt sense of wanting this to be different? To push it away, for it to end? Or just to not think about it? We're just sticking with unpleasantness in feeling tone and sensation. So just being sure not to bring in something like big in your life that you're not liking. We're staying really present in this moment. Feeling tone, sensation. It's okay if you don't react at all. We're just noticing. And then what would it be like? What might it feel like to be with any of the unpleasant feeling tone just as it is? This is like a little workspace, a lab for this. So we get to experiment. What might it be like to be with the unpleasantness? Softening that need to change it. Just witnessing, being with. And from here, we'll transition. We're just touching on each of these three aspects kind of lightly today. So let it be light. Maybe taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Zooming out your awareness. And then go ahead and notice, reorient. Where do I feel pleasantness? Pleasant sensation or feeling tone? Does it feel good to be seated or lying down, to feel the support beneath me? Am I quite comfortable in my position? Do I feel happy with the temperature? Do I feel something subtler beyond physical comfort, but like a sense of ease or comfort in myself in this moment? Go ahead and be with the pleasantness. Allow yourself to feel it, to be receptive to it. If there's resistance or challenge in feeling pleasantness, can be warm and tender toward yourself in that resistance. Just noticing whatever's arising, being witness to it, being with it. Is there a reaction of, I want more of this? I want to feel this everywhere all the time, or I don't want this to end. Noticing those reactions too, if they arise. What would it be like to just be with the pleasantness, with a sort of spacious open-heartedness, feeling it, sensing it, tuning in, but allowing the reactivity of your mind to soften so that you can just be with the experience. We'll take a few more moments here. Again, whatever's coming up for you, whatever reaction, the practice is to just observe it, to notice it. You're doing it right. And then taking a moment here to just kind of pause, take another deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just lovingly letting go of the focus on the pleasantness, zooming out your awareness, again to the whole of your being now. And now we open our hearts, our awareness to notice the neutral, what isn't typically grabbing our attention, that wide of expanse of space across and inside your being that maybe is doing just fine, but that maybe you kind of gloss over in daily life. Examples on your physical body could include like the expanse of your back, the tops of the legs, the bottoms of the feet, the armpits. Just being open to notice all the neutral, where there's no distinct like pain or unpleasantness or something feeling like it's going wrong. And there's no like ecstatic feeling of joy or felt sense of being really pleasant, but all the stuff that flies under the radar. noticing the spaciousness that opens, kind of the fullness of this moment through noticing all the in between, all the neutral. If this is challenging for you, that's okay. Our, our brains, our minds are not trained to do this. They're typically filtering like what's really important for my thriving or what will threaten my survival. That's kind of what we notice, toggling between the two. So just get curious what might happen if you notice everything else, the in between, all that space. Taking a couple more moments here. And if all you've noticed in this phase is that you don't feel much or that nothing's really happening, that is good. You notice it. You're noticing what's happening for you in your experience. We'll bring this third part to a close by taking a deep breath in and releasing. Deep breath out. And before we bring the whole practice to a close, we'll take a couple minutes just to bring in the entire field of awareness of feeling, tone, sensation, unpleasant, pleasant, and the neutral, all the in between. So just allowing yourself to feel your whole being as this field of radiant sensation. Awake, aware, and alive. Softening into awareness of the whole of your experience rather than just the parts. Opening this opportunity to really connect with and be with yourself, perhaps in a different way than you typically do. Taking a couple more moments here, perhaps reconnecting with your breath, just as that sort of center point, that anchor. And then we'll prepare to bring this practice to a close. If you'd like, you can take a gesture to seal your practice. This sometimes can be pressing hands together at heart center or at center of the forehead. Maybe just giving yourself a hug or placing hand at heart center. Taking a moment to rejoice, celebrate this practice of equanimity and presence with yourself. And at the sound of the bell, we'll return to our shared space. Okay, so take your time, everyone coming back. Yeah, I think one thing I want to say as we regroup here is that there is a practice where actually we use people, like visualizing people, bringing them in, someone who's unpleasant, someone who is really pleasant to be with, and then someone kind of neutral. And the beauty of this practice, regardless of how it's practiced, is that it opens us up to being able to be more at peace with like unpleasant folks, maybe even being more at peace and relaxed with the folks we love without so much of the understandable attachment or clinging to like, I don't want them to leave, or, I don't want them to go away, or I want to be with them more. And then also with the neutral, when we notice just the sometimes hundreds of people, like if you live in New York City and are walking the streets each day, hundreds of people that can pass through our awareness, who we kind of just don't pay attention to, because they're not like important to our thriving or survival. When we're able to like notice and take people in more, it actually is an antidote to loneliness or feeling isolated. So this is really, really crucial with the research coming out the last like 5 years, but especially since the pandemic, on loneliness and how that's really prevalent in a lot of places. And this is one way to sort of undermine that or like antidote it, is noticing the neutral in people and acquaintances. Yeah, because typically in that neutral, I mean, it's not always true. I know there's a lot of like space that might be in the neutral that we don't want to hear or see or have to filter. But oftentimes there's a lot of good in the neutral too. Like, wow, that person's outfit is so colorful. When I pay attention, that can bring me joy. Wow, this chair is actually really comfortable. Like, just opening more to our experience to be more receptive to the good.